When I was a kid, I thought life was a breeze. My dad was loaded, so money was never a problem. School? CO and I, and shunais in. I didn't sweat it. Work? Not on my radar. If I wanted something, anything, I got it. See a cool new gadget? Dad bought it. Fancy sneakers? Eandao senus dao hamsi sneakers? No problem. Eandine dirn. My friends would talk about college and careers, making plans for the future. I'd just laugh. Why bother? Why stress? Always so dentan and word tray. My dad had it all covered. That was good enough for me. Every morning, I'd roll out of bed whenever I felt like it. Breakfast in bed was pretty standard. Then, hours of TV. Sometimes I'd meet up with my friends. We'd hit up the best restaurants in town, decked out in designer clothes, cruising around in fast cars. Life was just easy and fun. I honestly thought it would always be like that. Money, Dao, never crossed my mind. Work. A foreign concept. If I felt like traveling, I'd book a flight. New shoes. Ordered online. Latest phone. Top of the line, of course. Ibdai, and house say, of course. Dad paid for absolutely everything. I never really thought about how hard he worked. Never asked about his business. I was just enjoying the ride. Living for the moment. Tomorrow? Kamai, sadstory, didn't give it a second thought. Then, one afternoon, my dad called me into his study. He looked serious. And intended turned shiny. Sit down, son, he said, Ital. We need to talk. No says, Benchile, here. I grinned, thinking he was going to tell me about some new toy he'd bought me. Sure, Dad, I said. But his face didn't change. He wasn't smiling. Oh, how did Shran in times rouse. He wasn't joking. A little knot of nervousness tightened in my stomach, but I didn't know why. Dad was always easygoing, always said yes to me. But today felt different. He took a deep breath and looked right at me. You're not a kid anymore, he started. You need to start thinking about your future. I chuckled. Dad, I have everything I need right now. He shook his head slowly. Into himself. No, son, you have everything because I work hard. But life isn't always easy. Things can change. I didn't get it. I thought he was just being dramatic. I smiled again, trying to lighten the mood. Don't worry, Dad, I said. Nothing's going to change. He didn't smile back. He just looked at me for a long, quiet moment. We'll see, was all he said. I didn't know what he meant. I figured he was just in a bad mood. I got up and left the room, his words already fading from my mind. I went out with my friends, laughed, spent money, completely oblivious that my life was about to take a sharp turn. The next morning, I woke up late, same as always. Stretched, grabbed my phone. Texts from my friends, wanting to hang out. I smiled, started getting ready. Best clothes, expensive cologne, headed downstairs. But when I got to the living room, Dad was there again, waiting. His face was just as serious as yesterday. "Sit down," he said, his voice firm. I sighed and plopped onto the couch. "Dad, I have plans," I grumbled. He ignored me, looking straight into my eyes. "You're not a boy anymore," he repeated. "Yeah. It's time you learned about real life." I rolled my eyes. "In Thailand, a couple and Sarai, a conultundasam." "Dad, I know about life," I said like he was clueless. He just shook his head again. "No, you don't." Then he said something really strange. "Come with me. And show us your demand." He led me outside to his car. I had no idea where we were going. He didn't say a word. I sat next to him, totally confused. He started driving. The city looked different that morning. I noticed people rushing by on the sidewalks, workers sweeping the streets, food vendors setting up carts on the corners. Stuff I'd never really paid attention to before. After a while, Dad pulled the car over. We were in a part of town I'd never been to. The buildings were older, kind of run down. The streets weren't as clean. People looked tired. Dad pointed to a man selling fruit from a small stand. "Look at him," he said. "He's up before dawn every day. Works all day long, doesn't get a break, doesn't complain. He's doing it to feed his family." I just stared, not really knowing what to say. Then, Dad pointed to a tiny shop across the street. Inside, an old woman was bent over a sewing machine, working on clothes. "She's been doing that for 40 years, Dad said. Doesn't have much money, but she works hard every single day." I watched the woman. "And she big to you," and said Frau. She looked worn out, but her hands kept moving, stitching away. I'd never really seen people like this before. Never thought about them. Dad turned to me. "And how I stand. Do you see now? Now, and itidantani tauriju?" he asked, his voice softer. Life isn't easy for everyone. Some people work their tails off every day just to get by. And you, my son, you've never worked a day in your life. I felt weird, uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what. I looked away, suddenly feeling small. Different. Like something inside me had shifted, just a little. We got back in the car. Dad didn't say anything else. He just drove. I sat quietly, thinking. The images of the fruit vendor and the seamstress stayed in my head. People who worked hard. People I'd never even considered before. My life was easy, but now it felt different. I couldn't explain it. After a while, Dad stopped the car again. This time, we were in front of a huge, modern building. His office building. I'd been there before, but only for quick visits when I needed cash. Dad got out. "Come on," he said. I followed him inside. The lobby was bustling. People rushing around, phones ringing, papers everywhere. Dad led me to his corner office. He sat down behind his big desk and looked at me. "Do you even know what I do all day?" he asked. I shrugged. "You work? I said, stating the obvious. He nodded. Have to now tours and use quiters. Poemsky. Yes, but do you have any idea how hard I work? He didn't wait for me to answer. I'm up before sunrise. Making huge decisions, solving problems, keeping this whole company running. And I do it all for you? I glanced around his office. Saw the tired faces of his staff through the glass walls, hunched over computers, talking on phones, looking stressed. I'd never really noticed them before. Just saw the money Dad gave me. Never saw where it came from. A strange feeling washed over me. Guilt, maybe? Then Dad slid a small notebook across the desk to me. You start working here tomorrow, he said. I laughed, a nervous, disbelieving laugh. Me? Meow? Work? I asked. He didn't laugh. Yes, he said firmly. You're going to start at the bottom. You're going to learn. Yes. I was stunned. And tell me, it came to wait test. But I don't need to work, I protested. Dad shook his head. Induce it into ITL. Yes, you do, he said, his voice serious. Because one day, I won't be here. And then, what will you do? I didn't know what to say. I'd never imagined life without Dad. Never thought about the future in that way. Never considered anything beyond my own comfort. But now I was out of options. Dad had decided. Tomorrow, my easy life was over. Tomorrow, I was going to work. For the first time. The next morning, I woke up early, which felt totally bizarre. I was used to sleeping in until noon. But today, I had to work. I got dressed and went downstairs. Dad was waiting for me, holding a small brown bag. Your lunch, he said, handing it to me. I blinked in surprise. Lunch? I'm Gaines entry. Gal, lunch, viewers, os, lunch hunt. Lunch? Can't I just eat at the company cafeteria? He shook his head. No, Indites pomors brats. People who work bring their own lunch, he said. And today, you're one of them. We drove to his office building. But when we got there, he didn't take me to his fancy corner office. Instead, he led me to a small, crowded room. Desks crammed together, people tapping away at computers. A man with glasses and a serious expression walked over to us. This is Mr. Williams, Dad said. You'll be working under him. Then he just left. Mr. Williams looked me up and down. Come with me, he said, and started walking fast. I trailed after him. And you sell Orion trees breath. And he pointed to a small bare desk and a chair. You'll be checking these documents, he said, dropping a huge stack of papers in front of me. Look for errors. do numbers done. Mark them. I stared at the mountain of papers. And now, all of them? All of them? I asked, my voice a little shaky. Mr. Williams nodded. How? Yes. And work fast. I know you, I'll work hard things for you. I sat down and started. At first, it seemed easy enough. Just checking numbers. But after an hour, my head started to throb. The numbers all blurred together. My eyes felt gritty and tired. I wanted to stop, to take a break, but I couldn't. Everyone around me was working, heads down, focused. No one was chatting or goofing off. It wasn't like my old life at all. This was work. By lunchtime, I was exhausted. I opened my brown bag. A simple sandwich, an apple, a bottle of water. Nothing fancy, no gourmet meal. I ate quietly, watching the other workers. They ate quickly, efficiently, then went right back to their desks. No long lunches, no relaxed conversations, just work. I missed my old life. Missed the freedom, the ease. But I also felt something else. Respect. I went down into a wow. These people worked hard every day. And now I was one of them. The afternoon was even worse. My back ached from sitting. My hand cramped from writing. I wanted to quit, to go home, but I couldn't. Mr. Williams came by my desk, checked my work. Found mistakes. Ow. Do it again, he said, pointing to the errors. I sighed, wanting to argue, but I didn't. I just nodded and started over. When the workday finally ended, I felt different. Completely drained, but different. For the first time, I really understood how hard people worked. For the first time, I realized that money didn't just appear out of thin air. As I walked out of the office building, I saw Dad waiting for me. He didn't ask how my day was. He just smiled, a small, knowing smile. And for the first time in my life, I smiled back. Not because life was easy, but because I felt like I had earned that smile. The next day, I woke up early again. My body was stiff and sore. My hands ached. I'd never felt this way before. I wanted to stay in bed, but I couldn't. I had work to do. I got dressed and went downstairs. Dad was already at the kitchen table. He looked up at me and nodded. Ah. Good, he said, just one word. But it felt different this time. It felt like he was proud. When I got to the office, Mr. Williams was already there, waiting. He didn't smile, either. You were slow yesterday, he said, and now it's hot. Work faster today. And tunnel line through and us. I wanted to say something sarcastic, but I didn't. I just sat down and started working. The papers were there, waiting for me. The numbers still swam before my eyes. My head still throbbed. But I worked. I didn't stop. It didn't sound sure tell how BF. By noon, I'd finished the stack of papers. Mr. Williams checked my work. Fewer mistakes this time. And now in timelines how do we? Better, he said, just one word again. but it felt good. Better than buying something expensive. Better than wasting time with my friends. It felt like I'd actually accomplished something. Something real. And talent or two. I'd never felt that before. Never cared about work before. But now, I kind of did. During lunch, I sat with some of the other workers. They talked about their families, their problems, their weekend plans. They laughed. Ate their simple lunches quickly, and went back to work. I listened to them. I'd never really thought about people like them before. Never considered what their lives were like. But now, I was sitting with them. I was one of them. The afternoon was even harder. Mr. Williams gave me an even bigger stack of papers. "Let's see if you can handle this," he said, a hint of challenge in his voice. I wanted to complain, but again, I didn't. I just nodded, took a deep breath, and focused. I worked. The hours dragged by. My back screamed, my hands felt like they were going to fall off. But I kept going. I wanted to prove I could do this. Prove it to myself, mostly. At the end of the day, Mr. Williams looked at me. Still no smile, but he said, "Not bad." Just 2 words, but they meant a lot. I nodded and left the office. Dad was waiting outside. He looked at me, a question in his eyes. "Tired, Al?" he asked. I nodded. He smiled, a real smile this time. "Good," he said. I understood now. I understood why he'd made me do this. And for the first time, I didn't want to run away from work. I wanted to learn more. Days turned into weeks, then months. I worked every day. At first it was brutal. My body ached, my mind felt fried. But slowly, I got better. Faster. And entergai jaus afford cheio itawas. Made fewer errors. Mr. Williams still wasn't exactly friendly, but he stopped complaining. Sometimes he even said, "Good job, Dao." Those words felt better than any gift I'd ever received. I started to understand money. Before, it was just something to spend. Now, I saw how hard it was to earn. I watched Dad work. Saw him making tough decisions, handling crises, keeping the whole company afloat. I'd never respected his work before. But now I did. He wasn't just a guy with a lot of money. He was a guy who had built something real, something important, with his own 2 hands. One evening, Dad called me into his office. He looked at me for a long time, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You've changed," he said. I didn't know what to say. He went on, "Nidais, idaitu. At first, you were, well, lazy. Didn't care about work. But now, you get it?" I nodded, feeling a little embarrassed. He was right. I wasn't the same person anymore. I felt different. Stronger, somehow. Then, Dad surprised me. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small silver key. He held it out to me. "This is for your office," he said. I was stunned. My office? "Nai entium internet portisel," I stammered. He nodded. you're ready for more responsibility. You've worked hard. It's time to take the next step. I took the key, turning it over in my hand. It was small, but it felt heavy. It wasn't just a key to an office. It was a key to trust. The next day, I moved to my new office. It was small, not as fancy as Dad's, but it was mine. I had my own desk, my own chair, my own work to do. I wasn't just a worker anymore. I was learning to lead. It wasn't easy. I made mistakes. I made mistakes. Had tough days. But I didn't give up. I kept working, kept learning. I wanted to be like my father. I wanted to build something of my own. Looking back now, I laugh at my old self. I thought life was easy. I thought money was simple. But I was so wrong. Life is work. Life is effort. Life is building something with your own two hands. My father taught me that. And now I'm ready for the future. Not because I have money, but because I've learned how to earn it.